Hey everybody, it's Corey from Unified Masters. So, back to doing car videos. Samantha's asleep, and so I figured I would hop in the car and do a video, go to the park. So I've been called to do this video, a little update on kind of what's occurring right now on the planet, as many people are reporting on this. So it's not entirely new, but this is just my portion and what I have to bring to the table regarding all this. So we're in a period of extremely fractured timelines that are streaming throughout, with many different probabilities and possibilities in place. This is why nothing feels really set in stone right now. And it's really kind of up to us as a collective as to what we're going to create as a probable outcome based on the collective body and the coordination of the higher self. So, focus right now so much on the higher timeline and what that higher probability looks like for you. Now, as I see this, we could focus on one collective outcome, which, of course, could be very difficult with so many different choice points and so many different viewpoints, especially when we look at those that are looking at the Armageddon timelines, those that are looking at, they're living based in a fear-based world, or they're living in a faith-based world. And when I say faith-based, I don't mean that they are subscribed to a religion or to some sort of dogma, but their eyes are set on the highest trajectory. So if we look at the bifurcation that occurred between the old world and the new world split, we're kind of seeing that same scenario. And the way that I see it, and the way that it's been reported by others, is we've got one that is geared towards freedom and one that's geared towards enslavement. And so right now, more than ever, we could focus on one of those probable outcomes, or what we could do is end up creating the highest timeline for ourselves and letting that be woven into the collective. And so how I'm portraying this in the way that I see it is by really focusing on what do I want to create for myself in my reality. I've been discussing this a lot recently about, creation. What am I going to create? What am I going to create? What am I going to create? Right now, we are in a time where manifestations are speeding up because we are getting closer and closer to 0 point. And that 0 point, that fresh template feeling, is here for many of us. And while I know that there are many that don't want to create while we're in the process of transition, because I think of it like this: like when we're in the process, if you're in the process of a move, if we were to put this into symbolism, you don't want to start creating while you're in the middle of the road on the way to your destination. But I feel intuitively that right now that is heavily going to affect the outcome of this entire situation. And so for me, the focus has been, okay, what do I want to create for myself, and how do I want to reshape and reform myself? Because what's going on too is a lot of us are back in that the transformation phase. And during the transformation phase, we show up in a new way. We show up in a new light, and we show up in our, some of us are showing up in our sovereignty and our autonomy. And our job now, our role, is to create something that is going to create change in the world. And so the focus is definitely like, okay, how can I create the best reality for myself and weave that into the collective? Because the small choices that you make for yourself really impact the greater good of all. While every role serves its purpose, so those that are outspoken, that are coming out and talking about the truth of what's occurring, or are, bringing their own layer and their own piece to the puzzle, it is the micro changes that really affect the whole. So things like, I'm going to go here right now. Okay, I'm going to go here right now. Walking around without a mask on. Being a part of that change. Refusing to be silenced. Refusing to live in fear. Walking around without the mask so you can show that smile to the cashier or that smile to another individual. in our area, we actually are seeing more people walking around without masks, but in stores, there's some stores that still don't require masks. And so we walk in without a mask. And while it is interesting to get the stares at times and to feel the energy of people that are like, what is he doing? And is he a madman? Part of showing up in the light is by shining that no matter what. And so because of this, it attracts attention. And right now, I am seeing a pick up in density in our area. So, I can kind of cap and hit a certain vibration before I start attracting things into, our area, and into our field. Once again, it's got food to eat to a certain level and certain degree, but I do notice that there's this, it's like things start to close in, and I don't want to say it's any being, entity, or group, but it's like there's an overlay of a thick density in my area that can pick up and start to make its way in to see if it can affect me or not. And I don't say that that's why it's occurring. It's just that the collective in the area is living in a certain timeline of fear, darkness, X, Y, or Z. And so because of that, a lot of that now is having to shift my frequency and focus, no matter what's going on in the external, towards creating that highest outcome for myself, and thus allowing that to be weaved into the collective. And so right now is really important to focus solely on, for me at least, and my piece of this is repairing that fractured timeline by creating my own highest probability and highest outcome. Now, recognize that when this happens, it's not going to be extremely fluid for everybody, because there's a lot of forces out there that don't want that highest outcome to occur. This is because of the factions that are at war right now. This is because of the spiritual war that we are under, that there is going to be interference when you start to create this. But I will say this. We came down here to do this, okay? And it's taken me a while to get my head above water to be able to create this message and to have this outlook. And it's still very moment to moment. It's not perfect for me. There are many moments that I find that it starts to creep in closer and closer, and I go, oh crap, and I find that is the moment right there when I feel it in my energy body, when when my heart starts to palpate and I start to feel like that dread and that terror come on. That is when I step into what I can do for myself to get out of that vibration, out of that frequency, and not allowing that to enter, which is going to be varied for every single person. But I want to remind you that if you're here and alive right now, and especially if you're watching this channel, even if you are very new to this entire situation, or you're new to the lightworking journey, or you're new to working with your consciousness, or you're new to shadow work, if you're watching this video right now, I guarantee that you have been through similar situations like this in your lifetimes that have provided you ample opportunity and tools to be able to shift through what is going on right now. We all have our own individual tools and skill sets, and it's really time to suit up and show up with those things. And if you don't want to necessarily create something for yourself, like a business, for instance, or some sort of humanitarian effort, whether it be small or big scale, a lot of this creation point is just creating a more joyous atmosphere to live in. It's like showing up and being the softness, showing up and being the joy, showing up and being the love, showing up and being that light regardless of what is going on. And granted, it does take shadow work during these periods in order to suit up and to show up in that manner. And that's how it's been for me. There's been a lot of dissolution and a lot of change and transformation occurring, and so I haven't always been able to show up in that love light frequency, especially when I recognize that if I focus solely on love light and I don't resolve my shadow, it doesn't fix anything. I get caught up in a loop. I get caught in the love light loop where there's this judgment of, why aren't I try to stay in the love light and then something comes and knocks me off. The victim mentality starts to play out. And this is all about having to do the shadow work and the integration from the shadow work. This is diving into why I attract certain scenarios into my life, why I have certain thought forms, why I have certain patterns, and why my unconscious keeps creating this into my reality. And so this is that merger of the unconscious to the conscious, until the unconscious is creating nothing but joy and beauty and pleasure and love into your day-to-day. And so part of this creation point isn't necessarily like, hey, get up and show up and create this beautiful business, but hey, how can I create a more joyous atmosphere for myself? What can I do every single day to be able to do that? Is it having to clean up my home? Is it having to change my friends? Is it having to change my outlook? Is it having to go get a haircut? Is it having to change my style? Whatever it might be for you to be able to access that joy. Do I need to wear more color? Am I wearing too many, dark clothes and it's bringing my vibration down? Everyone's different. I'm not saying that when you wear dark clothes you're bringing your vibration down, but it's all about your association to yourself and how you're showing up in the world. That is part of that creation point that is going to create that change. To get through those fractured timelines and to get through this process, we have to be focused on that single outcome for ourselves rather than for the collective. Because if we focus on the single outcome for the collective, this is going to be done by this time and what can start to happen is, if we are focused on the collective and focused on, rather than ourselves being integrated with the collective and being one with the collective, but focusing on the collective as a separate group, being, blob, entity, whatever we want to call it. Not entity as in some shadowy element, but as a separation of us. And we are so focused on the single point of that collective getting there. If the collective doesn't get there, or you see some sort of turmoil, or you see a natural disaster, or you see something like recently here in our area in Corpus Christi, Texas, there was a shooting that occurred. Okay, so if I look at that can create this judgment of why isn't this being created, and you see how that starts to knock my vibration down. Or making a comparison. This is why I feel like it's so important for us to focus on our individual timeline and correcting that, and then allowing that to be weaved into the collective on its own, versus trying to change the collective. So right now, what do you want to build for yourself? What do you want to create for yourself? And if you are in this process of creation and you're getting ideas and downloads and you're worried about money, I'm going to go into that now. So it came up through one of my council meetings that it's time to start stimulating the New Earth economy. So there are many different factors that we're going to need to get the ball rolling, and enough people in the collective, and light workers especially, to be able to get this, to be able to build out this framework and this structure. So it's already built out. It's just about it becoming more prevalent in our society, especially as here in America, our economy is dipped down into the buckets. We're in an economic crisis through this as well. And so because of that is now the opportunity to bring forth the New Earth economy and the quantum financial systems. So I want to talk about that a little bit, because money has been a factor for me. There's been a lot of root chakra stuff occurring, and a lot of lack programming having to strip through, and layers of it, feeling it in the collective and seeing it within others. That I want to talk today about the abundance grids here on Gaia. So part of the crystalline grid structure that has been built out, there is an abundance grid that is available where you can tap into the New Earth abundance. It is available right now, and there is a way to be abundant right now during the economic crisis, and during the changing of the guard, and during this spiritual war. I've tapped into this grid before and started to access this flow, but there were some things that occurred where I couldn't keep it going, and it had nothing to do with the grid, and it had nothing to do with the system itself, and had everything to do with my ideology and my belief system. So when I tap into this grid of the abundance grids, the first thing they told me is you have to donate 50% of everything you make. And I will say this, when I first heard that, every time that it's popped up where I get this choice point to re-enter and to stimulate the quantum financial system, okay, it's always at a time when it's like right at the end of the month and I got rent to pay and I'm still short on rent. And I'll tell you what, anyone that has, regardless of what you've been through in life, if you are told, if you've got $400 that you need to pull up to be able to pay for your rent at the end of the month, and then the grids in your higher self asks you to donate 50% of everything you own, most of you would be like, this makes 0 sense to me. Well, the idea is that with the 5D financial system and the quantum financial system, it's shared. There is no, this is mine, this is yours, this is yours. There's no separation. It's for everyone. So when this abundance is for everyone, we recognize we own nothing, we attach nothing, and nothing is truly ours. And this includes our abundance when we were speaking of finances and money. And so because of that, it's very much so a shared network, but it's also keeping that flow going. So when it comes to donating 50% of what you receive, it's making sure that it's going into the right systems as well. So it's like donating to light workers. This does also include buying products through light workers. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a donation. I've noticed too, like if I buy crystals through a light worker, you know, especially my Andaras, if I support someone who's keeping the Andara kingdom alive and is sharing the elemental message like that, the money comes back very, very quickly. Buying courses for yourself, you know, buying different activations, anything that is focused on your vibration will really help. Also too is the food you're buying. So when you're buying unprocessed foods, you're buying, you know, vegetables, fruits, you're eating raw, and you're eating for your soul and for your body, because that's different for everybody. I'm not saying like, hey, if you buy meat, you're doing something wrong here, because that's not how I see it. Once again, it's all about the intention of saying yes to your body, your vibration, and living in your joy, and also making sure that you are supporting other small businesses and other humanitarian efforts. That's what's really going to help to get that process underway. And I have noticed that when I'm donating more and I'm giving freely without judgment, okay? So for instance, here's another thing is like, you know, giving to the homeless. There are times where me and my human, even though I've been homeless before, it's just a part of what's going on with me, is I have this prejudgment or this prejudice where I won't give money to a certain homeless guy because I feel like he'll go buy drugs with it, he'll go buy alcohol or whatever my judgment is, okay? The idea here is to be able to release all judgment and to try to stop figuring out what they're going to do with the money and just try to help ease the person's life a little bit. Not saying that I am here saying you should go support someone's drug habit or you should support someone's alcohol habit or you should keep co-signing their old life, you know, but what you're doing is you're offering a gift of hope and you're also activating them too. Part of that response of the giving is that when you are giving consciously from the heart, it does something for them more than if you're just giving. It's different. I've noticed, you know, the spirit of giving is always a beautiful thing. Okay. The spirit of giving is always a beautiful thing. But when a light worker does it from a heart-based, heart-centered, open heart approach, it does something in that individual at a cellular level and that energetic level that creates change. And you don't have to say much, okay? Just you handling that money and giving that intention for the highest good of that individual is going to change things. So the biggest thing that I've noticed, and once again, is when I'm talking about the formula that I receive for the abundance grids, I always invite you to connect to them. Intend to connect to the 5D and higher abundance grids on Gaia and just ask her how they work. Gaia really does not have a problem sharing this information with you, as long as you are using it for the highest good of all and you are coming from a heart-centered approach for it. The idea is this is not created so you can become rich. It is there so we can start to end the wage slavery. We can start to end the fear behind money, but we can start to use it as a tool of true reciprocity to where we can help one another out and we can live more abundantly. And so your intentions are always going to be smelt out from miles away, but connect to Mother Earth, intend to connect to the crystalline abundance grids, and listen. Ask, what can I do to be able to support and to influence these grids in such a way where we can start to amplify them, where they can be more readily available here to others? How can I tap into them and keep the frequency of abundance alive while this economic crisis is occurring, at least here in the United States. I don't know about other countries. I'm pretty sure we're all faced with it at some level or some degree. And once again, I'm just beginning to tap into hearing these grids and knowing how they work. And this is the only, for me, it's the first part of how, it's like, here's a little bit of information, and now we want you to go and to work with it. That's what is being asked of me. And I'll say this. You are asked if you want to access these abundance grids and you want to stimulate them. You have to believe before you see it. So a big part of this journey is that you're not going to be shown it first, unless you see someone else unless you are with someone who's accessing these grids and is doing this. That's the only way you're really going to see it first. But a lot of it is that you have to access it for yourself first and try it out and see that it does work. Now, I'm not sure how it would work on a fixed income, like if you're working at a 9-to-5 job, because once again, I'm a creator. I have my own business, and so I'm going to see things a little bit differently than if I were on a fixed income or I was making hourly at a job. But it doesn't mean that you can't access them and start to begin the process of stimulating these grids and towards activating and amplifying them, because they are here, they are available. It's just a matter of getting them more readily available to all and amplifying them in the area and letting more people become aware that they are alive, they are active, and that it is possible even during this time to get your abundance right. As long as it's a heart-centered approach and you're building towards humanitarian efforts. So this is all about for the good of humanity. This is not about the good of self. This is about the good of all. So it's the spirit of giving. It is the spirit of helping out. It is the spirit of nurturing. It is a motherly essence, and it's not distorted, and it's not for selfish greed or for selfish gain. And so intend, go out into nature if you can. If you can't go out into nature, you can do this from your own home. Just set the intention to connect to the crystalline abundance grids on Gaia. And then ask her, what can I do towards amplifying these grids? What can I do towards being able to help out? How can I keep my abundance alive? And ask her, because once again, when we look at the switch in the economy and the switch in the money, this is not, we're all the power is not in the man anymore, and the power is now in the earth, okay? So Gaia would love to talk to you about them. If you choose to open up, dig your hands in the dirt, get your feet in the dirt and listen. And if you can't get out into nature, intend to connect to her from wherever you are at, closer to the ground, the better. And just make sure you are also opening up your heart and clearing your field and getting in that vibration of love and truth and that divine motherly essence, in order to make sure you can hear her clearly and that you're actually really hearing Gaia, because there's some interference that is occurring right now as well. So, what do you want to create for yourself? How can we stimulate these grids? It's just the spirit of giving unconditionally, without looking for anything in return. And a lot of that will happen once you start to stimulate the grids and you start to donate and do those things. Of course, all your beliefs are going to start to come to the table, and you're going to start to having to run through all of your abundance distortions. It's a big part of it. That's why many people right now are going through this, is because you've been putting that call out to the universe to be a humanitarian, to do these things, and the universe wants you to be able to create this beautiful life for yourself. But because of that, all of this stuff has to come to the surface so you can start to shift it out, so you can start to figure out what it is, where this patterning occurs, why it's a collective patterning in the first place, and that truth has to be discovered by you. And then once you work out everything in that polarity and integrate, we start to come back into balance with how we work with abundance now. No more greed, no more selfishness. It's all about the one, and it's all about sharing and creating opportunity for other people. Because best believe there are many of us that are sick and tired of the way that we've been living financially, and especially being a starseed. For me, it's not been easy in the money department, but I do know that there's more that I can do. And so part of this is now going, okay, Corey, you can sit here and you can cry about it and you can whine that you don't have enough money. or you can start to do something about it by creating that change. Remember, a lot of us are looking for a system that doesn't exist because we are here to create, to amplify, or to stimulate that system. Plain and simple. If you are a starseed, or you resonate with the starseed word, or the starseed, you resonate as being a starseed, you are not here to receive that system. You're here to be a part of that creation point. You're here to help amplify and to stimulate and to create that for all. That's why many of us feel lost and broken a lot of our lives. And I'm saying we're not broken, but we feel like we're completely out of place a lot of times. One being, Earth star chakra issues and a lot of root chakra issues. But a lot of it too is because those systems and that home feeling that we're looking for isn't here. Because we are here to create it. We hold the codes, we hold the intelligence, we just have to tap into it, and we have to anchor it, and we have to be a part of that change. And so a part of that is having to wipe our tears. It's having to lick our wounds and go, okay, it's my job. I signed up to come down and to do this, and I need to start doing this now. And how can I do it from the micro and allow that to be created into the macro? Once again, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and create this gigantic business, and no, you can do it in very such small levels. Just by, if you have $1 in your pocket and you see someone who's homeless or who's asking for money, give them that $1 unconditionally. Tell them to have a blessed day, whatever. For us, when we go to Petco, there's an ability to be able to donate money, to donate cans of food to animals. Do things like that. Whatever it is for that resonates with you as a part of being a humanitarian and as a part of building a better world for ourselves, that's what's going to work for you. It might be going and planting some flowers, or planting some seeds, or taking care of Mother Earth in some way, shape, or form, picking up trash, whatever it is for you. That's all stimulating this abundance, right? And it's taking care of Mother Gaia too. I've noticed that when you take care of Gaia, she takes care of you, and she is the one that is holding these grids. So why not do that? And not for the purpose because you want to access it and you want to get money, but you're doing it because you genuinely care, and you want to show that appreciation for her. So anyways, I figure that this video has gone on long enough. I'm going to be posting light language later about the fractured timelines, and towards correcting them individually for ourselves, and correcting the patterning, and being able to really shift our minds into the highest trajectory and the highest outcome for ourselves, and some other layers that will be intended through that light language. So I'll release that later. For now, I'm done. I love you all. Much love and respect to everyone out there. If you haven't, please click subscribe. My appointment calendar is wide open. The light language healing course will be starting in June. There's going to be many more things that are coming out as well as they slowly trickle in, and I start to recreate and reformat and reshape the way that I'm doing things as well. You're going to see more things coming to the surface. So I love you all. Thank you so much continually for your support. And with that, I will see you on the other side. Namaste.